So they came and and they said, "Mother, do you know anything about this country? What do you think is in this country here?" And they said, "There, when you cross the creek and go over the hill and go on the other side and go into an open hollow, you will see an old woman there. And this old woman has a pot. And whenever you go near her, she'll point that pot at you, and you will be drawn into that pot, and then she will boil it and eat you." And they said, "What sort of woman is this?" And they said, "This woman likes to eat little boys." And she said, "Don't ever go there. Whatever you do, don't ever go there." And the boys said, "No, mother, we will never go there. We won't even go near that place." But the very next day, they picked up their weapons, and then they started on the trail going towards across the creek, over the ravine, and into the hollow. And there they found this woman sleeping, and they quietly went up and took her pot, and then they woke her up. They kicked her, and she woke up, and they said, "Grandmother, what do you do with this pot? Why are you carrying it with you?" And the woman tried to grab the pot, but they pulled it back, and she said, "That's my pot. That's what I used to eat with, and give it back to me." And the little boy said, "What do you do with the pot after you eat?" And she said, "That's my favorite thing to do, is to eat little boys." So the boys pointed the pot at her, and she fell in, and they roasted her and killed her, and then took the pot and brought it back to their mother. And they said, "Mother, we brought that pot for you." And they said, "That's a bad thing. That old red woman that you killed, you did a very bad thing. Now the other powerful beings will be trying to come near us." And the next day they said, "Mother, what other powerful beings are around us?" And they said, "There is a tree that grows in a canyon, that are growing in a canyon, and there is one, the chief is always right in the middle of the trees and the forest." And he said, "If anybody walks underneath, it falls on them and kills them." He said, "Don't ever go into that canyon where the tree is." And they said, "Where is it?" They said, "It's across the creek, over the hill, and across the forest, and down the canyon." He said, "Don't ever go there." And the little boy said, "No, we won't go there." But the very next day, they got their weapons and started going to where they were not supposed to go. And when they came to the tree, they pretended that they didn't notice the tree, pretended that they were having a race. And they ran real fast towards the tree. And when they got close, they stopped real quick, and the tree fell, and then they jumped over it. And they said, "The tree, don't ever fall on people again." They said, "We counted cool on you." And they played around on the tree, and then they finally left. And then they went back and said, "Mother, that awful tree that kills people, we made it fall down, and it smashed to pieces, and we played around it." And their mother said, "That's a very bad thing you did. Now there will be more others that are trying to come and destroy us." And they said, "What else is there, Mother?" And she said, "There's a canyon on the far side of the forest there. Uh, when you get there, that canyon, it will be a small canyon, but when you try to cross it, it opens up and then smashes the people that are crossing it. Don't ever go there. That's something really bad. I don't want you to go there." And the boy said, "No, Mother, we won't go there. But where is it?" And she told him where to get there, the trail that goes to that canyon. And so the very next day, they got their weapons and went over there. When they got near, they did the same thing. They both cut Tipi poles. They both cut Tipi poles, and then they walked towards it, and then they ran real fast. And then when the canyon opened up, they pole vaulted over it and went across. And then when it closed up, they said, "We counted cool on you. They'll never open up and smash people again." And then they played around the canyon, and then they came back, and they said that bad thing over there, that canyon, we crossed it, and then we played around it, and now it won't kill people anymore. And then she said, no, there's something really bad that you shouldn't go. He said, to the east there is a canyon over there. You go you pass the mountains and go in the plains, and there's a canyon over there, and there is a huge buffalo bull. And when you get close, it will open its mouth and suck people in, and that's how he kills them. And he said, don't ever go there, whatever you do. Don't ever go there. And the boys said, no, mother, we won't go there. But then the next day they they got their weapons and went towards them, and they were carrying their Tipi poles again. They went down the mountain across the plains and went to this canyon, and then they went past the buffalo bull and pretended not to see it. But when he started to suck them in, they put up their Tipi poles, and when they went into their mouth, it was stuck in the buffalo's mouth, and he could not close his mouth. And so they went inside the buffalo, and they found people in there. There were people that were already dead, and some were dying, and some were still walking about and were still alive. And so the little boy said, what kind of people are you? You should try to find some way to get out of here. What are you? You are worthless and good for nothing. And so they looked about, and they saw something that was beating. And the little boys went and touched it, and they said, big brother, what do you use this for? And they said, leave that alone. That is what I used to think with. Leave it alone. And they went to this other shiny object, and they said, elder brother, what do you use this for? And they said, that's my sharpening tool. Leave it alone. That's what I use to sharpen my tools. And so they took out their knives and said, well, you're good for nothing. You don't need to think. This is what you used to think for. And they cut off his heart, and they cut off his kidneys. And then when it died, they let all the people out. And when they came out, they took their Tipi poles and started beating them. They said, you are good for nothing. You don't try to save yourself. Go and live someplace else. You are not Absaraki people. You are good for nothing. And they chased them away. And then they went home, and they said, told their mother, that terrible bull that sucks up people, we went in and cut off what he uses to think with and what he uses to sharpen his tool. The mother said, that's you shouldn't do that. Now we're going to have something more terrible to come and destroy us. And they said, what is it? What terrible thing is there? And he said, when you go to the east and you cross the hill and go and across the canyon and come to a clearing, you will find a white Tipi there. And there are snakes in there. They are very bad. These snakes have pointed noses, and they enter the people's body from their behind. And that's how they kill them. He said, there are many of them, and they are dangerous. Don't ever go there. And so the boy said, no, mother, we wouldn't go there. But they asked her again where to go, and she told him where to go. So the very next day, they got their weapons and went. And before they got there, old man Coyote came up, and he said, where are you boys going? And they said, we're going to that teepee where the snakes live. And old man Coyote said, you better watch it. They are very, very bad. He said, whenever you sit down, they come and enter your body through the behind. And that's how they kill their people. So when you go there, you be careful. You take a flat rock with you, and when you sit down on the flat rock so that they can enter your body and kill you. And so they took their flat rocks with them, and then they met a rabbit on the way. They called the rabbit and they said, elder brother, why don't you lend us your eyes? We want to go and see the snakes. And the rabbit said, I will give you my eyes, but you must give it back to me. And so they took his eyes with them, and then they went and entered the snake's teepee, and they said, come on in. Come on in. We've been expecting you. We have some meat ready for you. And there was some charcoals that were burning in the fireplace. And said, you can eat whatever you want. We have a lot of meat here. What do you like to eat? And the boy said, we like to eat the lining between the stomach and the lungs. This is what we like. And so they gave him this piece of meat. They threw it on the charcoal. And the snakes were hungry. They wanted this piece of meat. But when the boys came, they gave it to them so that they would eat it and rest, and they could enter their bodies and kill them. So when the boys came in, they cooked this meat, and the snakes wanted some of it. And they knew the meat was ready, and they kept saying, the meat is ready, the meat is ready, you better eat. It's ready to eat. But the boys cooked it until it was all burned up. It was all burned up. And this is how we like to eat our meat. They said, and they started eating it and gave it to the snakes. And when the snakes ate it, their mouths burned up and their teeth came out. So after eating, they sat down, and the snake said, you know, we like to tell stories whenever people visit us. We like to tell stories, and we'll each tell a story, and then when we get done, both of you can tell your stories. And so the boys sat down, but put their flat rocks under them, and then they put arrows beside them, their arrows beside them. And the arrows could speak to them. When they started telling their stories, the two boys got sleepy, and so they put the rabbit's eyes in their eyes so that their eyes would not close. And they sat there, and their arrows were saying, yes, yes. Well, the snakes were telling their stories. And some of the snakes fell asleep at this time while they were telling their stories. And they lay sticks in a circle around the teepee and put their heads on it, lay their heads on it for a pillow. So after a while, the boys woke up because the arrows fell on their face and woke them up. And then they said, now it's our turn to tell stories. And so they got up and they said, in the fall, when we go out hunting and the air is cool and we stay out all day and we're tired and hungry, and then we come home and go inside our teepees and we feel the warmth from the fire, and we smell the meat cooking in the fire, and then we eat and lie down and we easily go to sleep. We easily go to sleep. And then when they said this, some of the snakes fell asleep. And then they said, you know, in the summertime when we walk about and then we walk so much that we are tired, and then we find a plum bush with grass growing under it, and then we crawl under the plum bush, and then we easily fall asleep. Some of the snakes went to sleep. In the springtime, when rain is falling, and we stay inside the teepee and we hear the rain hitting the teepee, and we listen to the rhythm of the rain falling on the teepee, and we get sleepy, and then we easily fall asleep. And at this time, all the snakes went to sleep except one. So they took out their knives and cut off all their heads, and then when they came to this last one, he went inside his hole. And so they let him go. And then they went back and they said, told their mother what they had done. And they said, you've done too much. Something's going to happen to us. You better be careful. And then one day, Spring Boy got so excited. He was he was chasing some antelopes, and he got so excited that when he was exhausted, he fell. He sat down on the sagebrush, and the snake was waiting for him all the time. And as soon as he sat down, he entered his behind, and Snake Boy jumped up and tore off his torso, but it was already in his body. So he tore off his body from his neck, but it was already in his head, in his brain. And Spring Boy died. So when he died, the snake was afraid to come out. He stayed in the skull. He stayed there, but Spring Boy was ready to catch him if he ever came out. He kept waiting and waiting, and nothing happened. The snake was afraid he would come out and then go back right back in again. And this went on, and finally, Spring Boy became tired of the snake living in his skull. So he asked the sun to make it rain. He said, "Why don't you make it rain? Make it rain so hard that when it rains, all the hollows on the earth are filled with water." He said, "Make it rain like this." And so the sun made it rain real hard, and then all the hollows were full of water. And then he asked for some wind. He said, "Send some wind so that my skull will roll into that hollow with the water in it." And so the wind came and rolled the skull into the water. And when he did this, the snake tried to come out, but as soon as Spring Boy wanted to catch it, it went back in. And went back in. That Spring Boy is dangerous. Whatever I do is going to catch me. And he stayed there. And then he asked the sun to make it real hot while it was in the water. And hollow was boiling. It was so hot that it was boiling. And the snake said, "As powerful as Spring Boy is, I will come out. It's my chance to come out." As soon as he came out, Spring Boy caught him by the neck, and he said, "You are good for nothing. Today I was going to teach you a lesson. All you do is cause trouble. I will do something to you so that you will not enter the bodies of people and kill them." So he took him and went to a sandstone and then rubbed his nose, and they were long and sharp in the beginning, and took it and rubbed it until it was round. And he said, "From this day forward, you will not enter people's bodies and kill them." And the snake said, "Elder brother, I won't do anything. I won't do anything like that. I won't enter people's bodies and kill them. I won't do that from this day on. If you let me go, if you let me live, I won't do it anymore." So Spring Boy let him go, and the snake crawled into the hole. But before he went into the hole, he said, "But I'll bite people once in a while." So that's why snakes bite people.